Authentically You. March 9, 2014. Even though you have unlimited potential, each of you has certain personal limitations. There are some things you are able to do very well, and other things that you are barely able to do. What we see often is how often you allow the areas that are not your strength to affect your emotions. So much anger rises when you try to do something you have undeveloped skill of, and you direct this anger towards yourself. Trying to force yourself to have certain characteristics or skills that you see in someone else that is not of your own nature disturbs you and disrupts your inner peace, and will dissolve any joy that was present. Understand, dear ones, true spiritual transformation is not about overcoming the ordinary circumstances, the things that you are good at. Spiritual transformation directs you towards freedom from feeling limited. Those little things that you are unable to do well still remain as they are, but your mentality towards them is not trapped by them. You have no emotional attachment to them. When you become attached to these personal limitations, it is quite easy for you to fall into a self-denigrating attitude which carries even deeper burdens for you to bear. Many times the negativity you direct at yourself creates issues with your self-esteem and confidence. And these usually surround profoundly deep questions pertaining to who is doing the esteeming in comparison to who is being esteemed. Any low self-esteem is a negative view of yourself created out of self-doubt and uncertainty that is born from your little ego self. At times this little ego self has you expressing in another form of itself through arrogance and self-important pride, when to God each and every dear soul that lives and breathes is important and special. It is understood that many people who have self-esteem and low confidence issues have developed this negative emotional and mental approach of themselves as children, or at an early age. They were conditioned. It takes a lot of patience, perseverance, and tolerance to change the calibration of how one thinks of themselves, but over time and with enough effort all is possible. A great way to get yourself past your frustrations over areas that you are limited in skill is to see clearly all your strengths and weaknesses without taking them as an accumulative gauge of your self-worth. It is essential, dear ones, to learn to accept yourself just as you are, and to look for ways to compensate the parts of yourself that you consider to be weak and limited. Make a point to work on any of these areas in order to bring improvement. This spiritual journey you are on will lead you in the direction of internal and external awareness, which also includes the awareness of any shortcomings or limitations you feel you have. When you accept the truth of yourself and embrace your total self that includes all your strengths and weaknesses, then at that point, dear ones, great care must be taken in order for you to create a mature atmosphere of acceptance of yourself. Getting angry at yourself for not being able to do something you're not good at will only create new challenges and obstacles to any inner work you are involved in. It is essential to see your true self, not the illusory self, and it is essential to refrain from dwelling on your weaknesses. The spiritual path you are on is not meant to worsen any self-esteem or confidence issues. Truth is, dear ones, the deeper you get into your inner work, the greater likeness you will find something spectacular about yourself that will boost your confidence and self-esteem. You will discover your self-worth when you take the time to take your blinders off and truly see yourself with clearly opened eyes that are not afraid of what you may find. Each of you are unique, yet your uniqueness is just as valuable as everyone else's and just as essential to God. Each of you has an important role to fulfill. Don't rush your journey. Allow the joys and challenges to come to you. Be ready for the unknown and embrace all with an open heart. You have so much to give and so much to receive, but first you must be able to give yourself the kindness you deserve before you can reciprocate this kindness onto others. There are a few dear souls who confuse themselves with the state of emptiness and low self-esteem. Remember, low self-esteem is the byproduct of the overactive ego battering itself. But true real emptiness is when the ego recedes into the background. Any self-esteem issues cease because your true and authentic self and the esteem it has or doesn't have gives way for your authentic self to be embraced through the emptiness of negative thought and filled with the freedom of just being. There are many ways that having low self-esteem and low self-confidence can hinder the development and growth of your spiritual quest. When you have low opinions of yourself, you open a gateway of allowing yourself to become preoccupied with your illusory self, and it restricts your vision of your true possibilities and potential. Think, dear ones, how is it possible to pray to God with your heart, when you are thinking of yourself in a negative fashion and doubting yourself? Take a good look at the attitudes you give to yourself. Recognize how negative behavior directed at yourself undermines any progress in your inner and external work, and affects how you engage life. Yes, you have areas that are limited, everyone does. Everyone has something that they are really good at in comparison to something they have little skill of. By not acknowledging the two polarities within you, many situations will become repeated that will impose an unpleasant awakening of your true self. Remember, unpleasant situations that occur all have a root cause, and many of them are related to your shortcomings or limitations where you lose face. But what face is it that you lose? Losing face is humiliating and can be embarrassing depending on the severity of the situation, but the situation that comes is a great learning tool filled with important life lessons. The totality of all your conditioning, experiences, habits and even patterns of living and thinking create a mental and emotional face. This psychological face carries your personality that many times is mistaken and misunderstood as being your authentic self. This personality face seeks fulfillment from external sources. And when something goes wrong that is caused by your own inadequacies or weaknesses, part of this face is lost and creates a grip on your thinking that has not been challenged before. In the part of the face that is lost, or where there is a gaping hole, your authentic self or face is there. It is raw and it is trying to draw you in to face the richness and vastness of being able to live beyond your thoughts, reactions, and to develop an emotional depth that includes your inner self and outer self. Coming face to face with your authentic self during situations where you lose part of your psychological face can be very shocking and uncomfortable. It is through these situations that failures, disappointments and even humiliations present you with certain important choices that are life-changing. You have the choice to wallow in self-pity and despair, or to turn the eye-opening situation into a self-educating experience, where it has pointed out areas for you to change and to develop, where you use the energy from the shock to invigorate your spirit to bring positive changes into your life. If you really honestly and truthfully think about it, dear ones, you never purposely seek failure. Life is already able to provide you with situations and challenges where this can occur. When you face failure, pick yourself up, assess the damage and learn where you went wrong, and then take that valuable information and put it into use in future situations that will inevitably arise. On the inside, when you have faced failure, you may turn away from the personality face you created. In time, when you are ready, you will return to your authentic self and true face and shine this divine part of your being with the world. Life is laborious, it is complex and largely based on biased assumptions, attitudes, and stories that you tell yourself, materialistic goals, habits, and sometimes obsessions that help to create an image of who you think you are. What you create is a scarred image of your true self, and you defend this false self and nurture it, and you allow yourself to be drawn into this false self's impulses. Many times this false self-image enslaves you and prevents you from embracing the greatness of life, and hides you from your authentic self. Your authentic self is beautiful, and unadorned. It requires no mask, no pretentious stories for attention. Its darkness is its beauty. When you come to inner freedom, dear ones, you truly begin to see. It is up to each of you to recognize when you become overly concerned with your appearance, if you are rich or poor, intelligent or not, etc. When you realize your thinking is focusing on certain areas, understand you are becoming trapped into a small space that your little ego self is creating for you, and it is through this image that you will begin to view the world in a distorted fashion. Low self-esteem and low confidence can emerge here if your emotions and feelings are permitted to control your rationale. If you allow your emotions to cloud your perception, then you will be unable to see the splendor of others and of yourself. Take a step back and notice how you view other dear souls, and when you look at them, what are your thoughts? And discover that these thoughts have a lot to do with your own self-image. Remember, you are the one making the choices, determining the course of your journey. You will meet challenges and you will overcome them, but how you overcome them is equally important. Be kind to yourself along this journey, allow yourself to feel but not to be owned by the feelings. I am Melchizedek through Julie Miller. spiritualnetworks.com